Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Good to see you today. So let's get started. We don't have a whole lot of time today. Today we will talk about the simple present tense. Now, you are an advanced student, so this may seem like an easy lesson for you, but I don't want you to think about it this way or that way. Uh, a lot of my more advanced students make mistakes with a simple present tense sometimes. So it can be confusing, especially in some of the more advanced uses. Let's get started and let's see how this works. So again, to begin, so the simple present is constructed like this. The base verb plus S or ES if the subject is he, she, or it, and the base verb only if the subject is I, you, we, or they. Can you read these example sentences here, please?
You speak English. Jane plays the piano. They like baseball. We eat at noon. The cat drinks milk.
Yeah, so the cat is it, so we say drinks. Uh, Jane is she, so we say plays. One thing that students from Thailand often make mistakes with is this final S. So a lot of times, specifically students from Thailand that I teach, they'll sometimes sort of drop that final S. They don't pay close attention to these final sounds in English, which are important. So if, as a native speaker, if you say Jane play the piano, I hear it. It sounds very small, but my ear catches it. So that's one area one area in the simple present tense that is a cause for mistakes sometimes. That final
Do I
sound.
say correct? Do I say correctly though?
Yes, yours were clear. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Why don't you do one sample sentence of the present, simple present here? Can you think of just one example sentence on your own?
I wash dishes every day.
Perfect. Now, I want you to notice that you use the word every day. So that's another key aspect of the simple present tense. A lot of times when people think about present tense, they think right now, but that's not the tense that we use for talking about right now. Do you know this? Well, what verb tense do we use if we want to say that something is happening right now?
I am studying right now.
Good. That's the simple present continuous tense, the present continuous. So I am teaching, you are studying, maybe my brother is working. So if things are happening right now, we would use that verb to be plus the ing. So that's for right now. For simple present tense, we talk about things that are happening usually or always, even sometimes, never. So these are some general things that usually, always, sometimes happen. So when you say, I wash dishes every day, that's a perfect use. So let's continue. Uh, Notice here that for verbs that end in the O, CH, SH, SS, X, or Z, we add ES in the third person. So we can't just add S. And here, I'll show you why that is. So look at, you used washes. You used wash as your verb in your sentence. We'll use that for an example. So if I say, he wash, and I just add the S, wash, you can't hear the difference. So, it's very, you wouldn't be able to hear it. So we must say washes. So my point is, you really don't need to memorize these endings. It really, if you're thinking about it and you're speaking, it just flows naturally. So you can't say you catch or she catches. You can't say it. You have to say she catches. So kiss. There'd be another example. So if we have KISS, if I just add another S, now you have three S's. So A, that looks silly, and B, you still can't hear the difference. So it must be kisses in order for people to hear that difference. Next, for the verbs that end in a consonant plus Y, we remove the add and add IES. This isn't important for speaking and conversational English. You can't hear the difference there, but in your writing, this is important to notice.
Is this one used for he, she, it?
Yes.
She marries, he marries, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's
and
right.
then IUVD is like no es, just like I marry with
Yeah,
y.
correct. That's right. So every day when I go to work, I carry my computer. Every day when she goes to work, she carries her briefcase. So something like that. And then for if it ends in a vowel in the Y, we just add S. So we don't add an I here for plays. We just leave the Y as is. Again, this is the spelling of the spelling rule more than a speaking rule. Now here's where a lot of mistakes are made.
Oh, wait, I have a question.
Sure.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Can you move down a little bit? Scroll down.
Scroll up or scroll down?
Down. Up. I want to see up. I'm seeing down. I'm sorry. Okay, you see worry, right? And with Y, and
Yes.
then okay, I understand. Worry, you have to change it because no vowel sound. Okay.
Well, that's right. So it's a consonant and then the Y. So that's why we changed it to the IES. But for play, we have A and then the Y. So that's a vowel.
In front.
Yeah. Yep. And then real quick, so I just noticed this here as we're looking at it. So here we have, this is a common mistake in terms of pronunciation. So here, you read it. What is this word? What is this word? How do you say it?
Say.
Okay, and then what's the pronunciation of this word?
Says.
No. So that's the tricky part. So you look at it and you say says, but really a native speaker would say this word says. So says, yeah. So it
like she says.
That's right. She always says, wash your hands, or my mother always says, don't come home late. Says. So again, it looks like if this word here is say. So if I add an S, it should be say, says. But no, that's not the way we pronounce it.
To me, it sounds like past tense, like said, but it sounds like past tense to me, right?
You're absolutely
like
right.
said,
Yeah.
says.
So, right. So this one, you're right. So this is another example. So we have say, and then this word here is pronounced like says, and this word here is pronounced like said.
Said.
Yeah. So it's more the sound is more like a short E. So that's a common pronunciation mistake that I wanted to make you aware of. Yeah. So it's tricky because it looks like it should be say, says, but instead it's say, says. Say, says, said.
Okay.
All right, good. So let's move on. Now, negative sentences. So to make a negative sentence with the simple present, we normally just add don't or doesn't. And this is, again, another example where a lot of advanced speakers get confused with, don't or doesn't. So it's, I don't, you don't, we don't, but he doesn't, she doesn't, it doesn't. So here, can you read these example sentences here?
Which one? You speak French? Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So we have the affirmative or the positive sentence.
And then you don't speak French.
Correct. Yeah, so notice the placement of the don't. So the don't has to come after the subject and before the verb. So you don't speak French. He doesn't like homework. She doesn't eat meat. Things like that. Okay. So let's read these examples here. Can you read them?
You don't speak Arabic. John doesn't speak Italian. We don't have time. It doesn't take long. They don't want to go to the party. She doesn't like fish.
Good. So now if we're asking a question, notice how the word order changes. So over here, we'd say, she doesn't like fish, but if you wanted to make that into a question, you would just say, doesn't she like fish? So that would be the way that I could take this positive state or this negative statement, but then turn it into a negative question. So let's look at some examples down here below. So, again, for the negative, we're just putting do or does or don't or doesn't right at the beginning of the question. So let's read these examples here. So affirmative, do you speak English? And then can you change that to the question?
Do you speak English?
Okay, good. Let's try the next example.
He speaks French. Does he speak French?
Good. Let's try a different one. So I'll give you the sentence. You change it into a question. Let's see. Okay. So here's an example sentence. Frank plays baseball. Can you change this to a question?
Does Frank play baseball?
Good. So that was great. And notice here, and you did this perfectly, in the sentence or the statement form, I have Frank plays, but when I turned it into the question with does, we just use play. So that's a rule. That's another area where people sometimes make a mistake.
I have a question. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I hear people speak she don't do that. She don't do that. It's it's okay to use don't with he, she, it. Is that correct or was it bad language?
Yeah, that'd be incorrect. And
incorrect.
Yeah, and sometimes even native speakers get a little bit sloppy with their grammar. So so you might even hear that from a native speaker sometimes. But yes, so that's my example, or that's what I was saying at the beginning of this lesson, and that is, this seems simple. It's called simple present. So you're like, oh, that's so easy. Why is Micah teaching me this? But really, I hear a lot of mistakes with this, and even with advanced students, they might make mistakes. Even native speakers might say, oh yeah, she don't like something, and really that's wrong. It should be, she doesn't like, she doesn't play baseball, she doesn't eat fish, whatever. And then here's another one. I don't hear this mistake too often, but it is a rule, so I guess important to remember. We don't use do or does in questions that have the verb to be or modal verbs. So if it's a verb to be question, it would just be something like, is she shopping at the store? All right, well, I guess that's simple present continuous. I would say, is she tall? Or can she work tomorrow? So again, or should he study? So I cannot say should he study, or should do he study. So again, we don't use do or does in these kinds of sentences or with these kinds of verbs.
Okay. Must. I have a question. You see the word must and should. Which one is more demanding? Like I must go to work or I should go to work. Which one is stronger?
Must is much stronger. So must is sort of similar to have to, like you're really, you don't have a choice. Should is more like a suggestion. So here's an example. If I went to the doctor and he said, I could say, oh, my doctor told me I should lose weight. So that's a suggestion. The doctor's like, hey, Micah, you should lose some weight. So, so it might be a good idea. But if my doctor said I must lose weight, that means, I'm so fat that it's a health problem, and this is really serious. Hey, you must lose weight. This is getting serious. So that's one example. So yes, the answer is, to your question, is must is much stronger than should. Should is more of a suggestion. Okay, so here are some examples of questions. We don't have to read through all of these. Why don't you give me maybe one question with do and one question with does? Can you think of an example of each?
Do you like blackberry bush?
Okay, good. There I would use I would say, do you like blackberry bushes? So, so that would
do
be.
Do you like blackberry bushes?
Ah, yes, I do. All right.
Okay.
And then how about does?
Does Micah like to eat pizza?
Okay, perfect. Yes, he does. All right, so those are good examples. And then here again, we talked about this already, but we often use the simple present tense to express an idea that is repeated or usual. So again, we have, if it happened already, we use past tense. If it's going to happen, we would use future tense. If it's happening right now, we don't use present tense. If it's happening right now, it's present continuous. But for things that happen every day or all the time, then we would use the simple present tense. So that's regular. So here are some other ones. So sometimes, to make generalizations about things. So like if we're making a generalization about all cats. So, oh yeah, cats like milk, or, do dogs like bones? Windows are made of glass. So these are things that are generalizations about sort of true facts that are usually true. So again, we would use the simple present tense for these generalizations, or always, or usually. Now, here's an interesting one that's a little bit more advanced that maybe not many people think of, and I would say many English students don't know or think to use it like this, and that is, we often use the simple present tense to talk about an event that's scheduled in the near future. So I mean, really, this is kind of, you could use future tense here too, but often we use the simple present tense instead. So look at this example. So can you read this first example sentence?
The train leaves tonight at 6.
At 6 o'clock, yeah.
6 o'clock, okay.
So
the bus does.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So let's look at that one. Just that first one for now. So you could say the train will leave tonight at 6 o'clock, but often you'll hear native speakers use the simple present tense to express this idea. So, I might say, what time does your train leave tonight? You say, oh yeah, my train leaves tonight at 6 o'clock. And yeah, when do we board the plane? So again, if you're waiting at an airport, you could say, when will we board the plane? But often you'll hear native speakers use the simple present tense for this kind of situation.
Okay, that's kind of like for example, when do we board the plane? Are we talking about right now, that happened right now, or in the future?
Well, that would be,
when do we board the plane?
Yeah, so that's in the future, but in the near future. So I guess this is maybe a key aspect of that, or an important piece to remember. So like if your plane was leaving, at the end of the month in 2 weeks, then you would say, oh, when will you leave? When will you get on the plane to travel? So if it's far in the future, we don't use this. We would use future tense. But if you and I are sitting at an airport, and I don't know, I don't have the ticket, I might say, hey, when do we board the plane, or when does the plane leave? So we're there, we're sort of waiting in the airport and ready, but it's still in the future. It hasn't happened yet, and it's not happening right now.
Okay.
So that's the way that we would use it. So this is for, sort of scheduled events that are sort of already set and coming up soon. When does the party start? So a lot of times, we'll use it in that way. When does the party start? You could say, when will the party start? But often we would say, when does the party start? Why don't you try an example? Can you try an example sentence using this form, the simple present tense, to talk about a future event?
Where will we go tomorrow? Can I use that? This is a future, right?
That's future, right?
Present.
So that's right. So that's not present.
Where do we go tomorrow after lunch? No. Could we use that?
Okay. So yeah, maybe. So like, let's imagine that you're traveling with a tour group and you have a set schedule. And you can say, okay, so if you're looking at the schedule, you have a document here, and you're looking at it's called, in English we call it an itinerary. So that would be your schedule if you're traveling, itinerary. And so if I'm looking at my itinerary, and I might say something like, oh, I'm looking at the schedule for tomorrow, and we eat lunch at 12, and we go on a nature hike at 1 o'clock. So I'm using the simple present tense because those things are scheduled. It's right there on my sheet. Even though it's happening tomorrow, I can use the simple present tense there. So it must be scheduled. It's got to be sort of already set in stone. It can't be sort of open-ended. All right. So lastly, now all class have been telling you that we don't use present tense to talk about happening now, but as with most things in English, rules are sometimes broken. And so here's one piece that you should remember, and that is we do use it for happening now for non-continuous verbs. So non-continuous verbs sounds like a complicated idea, but these are verbs that have to do with feelings or senses or states. So like you could say, oh, I see a bird on that tree. You would not say, I am seeing a bird on that tree. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
So I am, the correct sentence, let me put the correct sentence underneath. So I'm seeing a bird. That's wrong. I see a bird. That's the correct sentence. Or, you would not say, I am feeling tired. That's not correct. We don't use feeling in the present continuous like this. We would say, oh, I feel tired. I think I'm going to take a nap. So that's what this rule is. So, for continuous verbs, we would use the present continuous tense for right now. For non-continuous verbs, we use simple present. So go ahead. Why don't you read these examples out loud so you can get a feel for the types of verbs that we would use this for.
Okay. I am here now. She is not here now. He needs help right now. He does not need help now. He has his ticket in his hand. Do you have your ticket with you? Okay, good. Right. So you wouldn't say he is having his ticket in his hand. That would sound silly. So yeah, we say he has his ticket, or we wouldn't say, oh, he. I guess sometimes you might hear somebody say he is needing help, but usually, oh, he needs help right now. All right, good. So, do you have any questions at this time? Not now. Okay. All right. So, in order to practice, let's do this. Here's a story. So what you can do is you can read these sentences out loud one by one. And what I'd like you to do is just call out the present tense verbs. So that way you can sort of look for them, let me know. I'll underline them, and then we can see some of the different uses of the present tense and how it's used in this story.
So go ahead. You can start with this first sentence, and I will, again, let me just test my pen here. Oops. Okay, good. All right, so go ahead. So you can read the first sentence and let me know what present tense verbs you see here.
Okay, now that we've learned a lot about simple present tense.
I'm sorry, you can start here with the beginning of the story with Justin.
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Justin is 12 years old and he is very busy.
Okay,
School starts
so
at
pause
8.
right. So pause right there. So in that first sentence, do you see any any present tense verbs?
Is
Correct. Yeah.
is a present tense verb. It's also a verb to be too, right?
That's
verb
right.
to be and present verb is the same thing.
That's right. So the past tense of verb to be in this case would be was. So if this was a past tense sentence, I would say Justin was very busy, or Justin was 12 years old. So was would be the past tense, and you're right, is the present form of the verb to be. Correct.
Okay. School starts at 8 o'clock. Starts is a present tense.
Correct.
But he arrives is a present tense at 7:15.
Mm-hmm.
Because he doesn't want to arrive late. Want?
Yeah, that's
doesn't.
Right. Yeah, so doesn't want.
Want is a present.
Mm-hmm. Good. So again, so this is a little bit different from the future tense before. I mean, so this is something that happens all the time. So it's not like the train leaves at 8 o'clock. School starts at 8 o'clock every day. So this would be more like I wouldn't use future. I would never use future tense in this sentence. This sentence is always going to be simple present because this is an everyday thing. So notice how this is different from an airplane leaving. I don't take an airplane every day. So I could say, oh, the plane will leave at 8, but when school starts I can't say school will start at 8. That's strange because school always starts at 8 in this case. Okay, let's continue. Sometimes.
Okay, sometimes he uses that time in the morning to review his assignment. He uses is a present tense.
Mm-hmm.
His assignment, but often he likes to talk with his friends. Likes is a present tense.
Good.
Okay, which one? He right?
Has. Yep.
He has a full day of classes from 8 o'clock until 3:30. Has is a present tense.
Good.
Then at 3:30, does he go home? No, he doesn't go home. This is a question we don't have to clarify.
Well, so
right?
this is the present. Remember, this is the present tense question form. So the question form, and again, we would say, does he go? So the question form starts with do or does, and then the subject, and then the verb. So does she like fish? Or does he watch movies? So again, does, subject, verb in the question form.
Okay. He doesn't go home. That's a negative present tense, doesn't.
That's right. And then so notice the difference. So in a question form, we would have the he here. So doesn't he go home? But for the statement, then we're just saying, he doesn't go home. All right, next, at 3:30.
At 3:30, he goes to study. Goes is present tense.
Mm-hmm.
Study English at an English academy. After English Academy, he meets his best friend Ethan. Meets is a present tense.
Good.
And they walk to Math Academy together. As a walk is present tense.
Good.
Justin doesn't do well in math. Doesn't do.
Good.
Doesn't do is a negative present tense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but Ethan usually gets high scores. Gets is a present tense.
Good.
Okay. After the Math Academy, Justin says goodbye to Ethan. Says. How do you say it?
Says.
Says. Justin says goodbye to Ethan, and he finally goes home. Goes is a present tense. I mean, present tense verb.
Mm-hmm.
How do you say it? Present tense or verb?
Yeah, that's the present tense verb. So the sentence is yeah. So the sentence is present tense, but the present tense verb is goes.
Mm-hmm. It is 7:30 when he finally walks in the door. Walks is a present tense verb.
Mm-hmm.
And he kisses.
Well, so wait a second. You're missing. There was another one there that you missed.
He finally walks. Which one am I?
Is. So it is.
It is. Okay. It is 7:30. That's right. Okay. I see.
Mm-hmm.
When he finally walks in the door and he kisses his mother. Kisses.
Good.
Kisses. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
His mother. They eat dinner together. Eat, present tense verb.
Good.
As a family. And Justin tells his parents about his day. Tells.
Good.
Present tense.
And then again, notice that with kisses, we have to have the ES. Like if I just added the S, you would just be he kisses, so you can't hear the difference. So in order to make it clear for the listener, we must say kisses. So that's the easiest way to remember that rule. You don't even have to memorize the rule. You just have to judge by how it sounds. Okay, in the evening?
In the evening, Justin's mother and father relax. Relax is a present tense.
Correct.
Okay. His father watches television. Watches is a present tense verb.
Mm-hmm.
And his mother plays on the internet. Plays. Justin doesn't like it. Doesn't like it.
That's right. So doesn't like. So yeah. So that would be the negative form of the past tense.
It.
Present tense. Sorry.
He doesn't like it. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. But he has to study at that point. He has is a present tense.
Good.
He studies the rest of the nights until it's time for bed. He studies.
Mm-hmm.
Study is a present tense verb. How do you say again? I'm sorry.
Sure.
Present tense.
Present tense verb. Correct.
Present tense verb.
And then here's so here's a sneaky one. It's. So it's is a contraction for it is. So there's sort of another. So there's another is in there. That's in there.
He doesn't understand why he must work so hard. Doesn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Why he must work so hard. His parents tell him that he has to get high grades if he wants to study abroad someday. Okay, let's see. His parents tell.
Good.
Tell is a present tense. Like you can tell is a present tense, and has he has to get high grade. Has is the present tense that you can tell that that sentence is present tense because it has.
Mm-hmm.
And next, if he wants is the present tense.
Good.
That's the other thing that you can tell is a present tense
Mm-hmm.
sentence. Okay. And he knows that they want the best for him. Knows.
Good.
And want.
Good.
But sometimes he doesn't think it is so important to study in America. Doesn't think. And study.
No. So to study, what kind of verb is this? Do you know the name of that?
I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I'm sorry. I misread it. Okay. It is. Okay. Is.
Good. And then how about to study? Do you know the grammar term for to study or a verb in this form?
To study? No. Can you tell me?
Yeah, we call that the infinitive.
Infinitive.
Yeah, so the infinitive form is to plus the verb. So he wants to study abroad. So that's the infinitive. Or he has to study. That's the infinitive.
Okay.
He has to get good grades. To get is the infinitive. Yeah, well, that's great. So we're about out of time for today. Do you have any questions before we end the class?
No.
I guess I have one more quick point, and you did a great job with this, but I just wanted to call this to your attention again, because I've heard this kind of mistake from many other students. Again, the final sound here. So, he knows, and you read that quickly, but many of my students will read that fast and they might just say, oh, he knows that they want the best for him. And so
He knows.
Yeah, he knows. So that final S, it seems like it's not so important, but it is very important to make sure you have what's called subject-verb agreement. So, the subject, he, has to agree with the verb knows. If you say he knows, it's like, well, wait a second, that doesn't sound right. That's confused.
What does it sound like to you? Like I understand, like because I speak Thai. Like if I say he knows, do you still understand when I say he knows? If I don't say he knows.
Yes.
What does it sound like when you hear it? What does it sound like when we say he know instead of he knows?
In most cases, it does not affect understanding, but I guess it could. So, I mean, if I wasn't clear about the context, I'm trying to think of an example. I can't really right now, but there have been times in which somebody didn't use the verb tense and I didn't know what they meant. So, I wasn't sure, so, so let's say you were talking about your father, and let's see, if you say something like, my father worked in an office. So there's no verb tense there. So so that's wrong. So now I might be confused. If I wasn't clear from the context, I might be like, well, wait a second. Do you mean he worked in an office before, but now he doesn't? Or do you mean, right now he always works in an office, or he will work in an office tomorrow? So if you say it, he worked in an office, there's no time. So sometimes the time would be clear from our conversation. So if we're talking already about something that happens always, I might know, she just forgot the final S. Or if we were talking about the future, if we were talking about next week, and you say, oh, he wants to go to the park, and we're talking about next week, I know that's future tense. But if the tense isn't clear from our previous conversation or the other words or the context, then I might be confused. So usually I know, but there might be some situations where I would be confused by that. Okay, any other questions?
No, thank you.
You're welcome. Good job today. See you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.